We are in the episode. You changed your shirt, or you just took off your hoodie. I didn't change my shirt. We're only talking about this because we are recording a second episode on the same day. Look at us go.
Wow.
Trying to get ahead.
Feeling our schedule isn't completely messed up.
So, in case we don't get to record next weekend for whatever reason, now we can be ahead. Or we could still record 2 in one day. Do we have enough ahead? Well, we don't have all the notes, but we have enough episodes picked out. Okay. You're Phoenix, and I'm Will. I'm pretty sure we didn't say that in the last episode.
No, I don't think we did.
And we're here to bring on the questions. We got a bunch of links. Where can all the links be found, Phoenix?
Linktree.com/BOTQS.
Including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon. You're into that thing.
YouTube. We have a TikTok now.
Yep. That link is there.
And we also have Instagram. X.
Yep. And also posting the clips to X. We should get on Blue Sky. You know what Blue Sky is?
Maybe.
I told you that. I think I told you that once before. The guy, one of the co-founders of Twitter, when he left Twitter before Elon Musk took it and turned it into X, he left and created a new social media called Blue Sky. So it's like giant Twitter, like a different kind of Twitter, basically. And that's what it is, just like a posting forum. We can get on there. Be on there too, I guess. I don't know if it's special, if they can get more traction from there. Anyway, like I said, linktree.com/BOTQS to find all of our links. So, Miss Phoenix, what question are we bringing in this episode?
Why did the Salem witch trials occur?
Yep. And hopefully this concludes our series on
witchcraft.
Witch stuff, Wicca, all that stuff. Maybe not, well, conclusion to stuff at this point, but there's probably still more to explore and like more detail, specific stories, possibly.
But this will be an end to a slight series for right now.
Yeah, exactly. We'll probably get into, because in all the witchcraft stuff, the Reformation was involved. So we'll start talking about that kind of stuff too. Probably. Salem, Massachusetts. Maybe we'll visit there sometime. That'd be cool. Because that's where it happened. The Salem witch trials, an extraordinary series of events that commenced in 1692 in colonial Massachusetts, stand as a defining and somber example of intolerance and profound injustice in American history. This crisis ultimately led to the tragic deaths of 25 innocent individuals, women, men, and children, with 18 hanged, 1 pressed to death, and 7 succumbing to harsh conditions of imprisonment. The widespread panic and lethal outbreak of witchcraft accusations were not the result of a single cause, but rather a complex convergence of deeply rooted religious beliefs, significant socio-political instability, severe external pressures, and pervasive psychological dynamics. These interwoven factors create an environment rife for suspicion and fear, setting the stage for one of North America's most devastating episodes of mass hysteria. We gotta talk about more mass hysterias. There's so many good ones.
Yeah.
The trials eventually subsided due to a critical shift in public sentiment, intellectual critiques from influential figures, and decisive governmental interventions, leaving an indelible mark on American legal and social thought.
What does it mean when you are pressed to death?
I think you know. That's, take it for face value. That I think it was a man. I they decided to do that too. Maybe not. But that story is in these notes. They put this person on a big stone, a big slab, and then just started putting more stones on top of them until they were crushed to death. Pressed.
That doesn't sound fun.
No. That's how they torture these people. They torture them in all kinds of crazy ways.
There's even one, like, a bowl. Like, you would be put inside, like, a metal bowl.
Yeah, that was some kind of... Was that a witchcraft thing, or was that just, like, criminal punishment?
I think that was just
England.
criminal.
It's just crazy ways they decided to torture to death people. You're put to death, so they had how many different ways to figure out how to kill you?
So many gruesome ways.
It's awful. People had some crazy imaginations to do that stuff. But now it's usually, if you're on death row, typically, which they try not to do. I think that's why there's so many people on death row, because they don't really want to kill people. But it's lethal injection, generally now. So they, it's poison. But even in a medical, or like a regular surgery, they have an anesthesiologist who knows the exact amount to give you to knock you out, but don't take you all the way to death. But with lethal injection, all the way to death. With some kind of cocktail of morphine and drugs that will numb you and slowly stop your heart. We probably talk about that at some point. What's the story of lethal injection, the story of the death penalty, or being put to death for criminal activities? Something. We'll figure it out. But I wonder what the actual recipe for the lethal injection is. Probably wouldn't know exactly. We might not learn that at all. Entirely, I mean, but it's probably something like that. Like, an anesthesiologist has to come in for your surgery to know that, okay, you weigh X amount of pounds, we can give you just a touch of morphine to knock you out, or whatever it is, so that we can do the surgery without you waking up. And then later wake you up with a different kind of drug.
Yeah, like smelling salts.
After surgery, not smelling salts. It's a different, like, an adrenaline of some sort, like an epinephrine or something like that. So they slowly give you the stuff to knock you out, and they slowly give you the stuff to wake you up. Make sure everything's okay, and then they're like, okay, you're good, like your vitals are good, heart rate, blah, blah, blah. Big day, no more drugs, get some sleep. I've had one major surgery in my adult life. My eyeball.
I think I've had kinda two. Beads in my ear, and then tooth this side.
You got knocked out for your tooth. But you didn't get knocked out for your ear thing, I don't think.
I think I did.
What? All I had to do was put a claw in there and grab the thing out.
I don't remember any of it.
Because you were so young. We should keep going.
Yeah. In 1626, English colonial settlers, predominantly Puritans, arrived at
Namkeeg,
a traditional Native American fishing site, with the ambitious goal of establishing an outpost for the Massachusetts Bay Colony. These early colonists, driven by a fervent desire to purify the Church of England from perceived Roman Catholic religious practices, envisioned building a utopian society which they symbolically renamed Salem, meaning City of Peace.
Irony.
Over subsequent decades, waves of new colonists reshaped the power dynamics concerning governance, land ownership, and religious practices. Quick note on the difference between the Church of England and the Roman Catholic Church. The Anglicans do not recognize the Pope as the head of the Christian faith. Instead, the head of the Church of England is the British monarch. The highest-ranking clergyman... Is that right?
Yeah, clergyman. Highest-ranking clergyman.
The highest-ranking clergyman in the Church of England is the Archbishop of Canterbury. We can thank King Henry VIII for that bit of the Protestant Reformation.
Protestant Reformation. That's how you pronounce it, Reformation. That's church stuff. Isn't that bizarre, though? So at one point, we will get into his story, too, at some point. Telling King Henry VIII story. He's the one that was like, listen, my wife isn't able to give birth to a son. I need an heir. And the church is like, tough. He's like, no, I want a different wife. Church is like, no, you married the one wife. That's all you get. And he's like, screw you guys. I'm going to make my own church. I don't want that wife anymore. I want a different wife. Then he proceeded to have multiple wives because he made his own church.
There's even a musical about it.
Great.
It's called Six.
Oh. The other Bolivian girl.
Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived.
Wow.
Did you know that King Henry, he exploded in his coffin?
He was a big guy. I did not know he exploded in his coffin. See, this is more to tell in King Henry's story. I think we'll get there. We'll save that for some other time. Needless to say, the church had split.
Yes.
For those reasons. Anyway, Puritan society was characterized by its highly codified and patriarchal structure where strict adherence to religious doctrines was paramount. Conformity was not merely encouraged, but was a vital part of the religious framework. Those who deviated from societal expectations were often viewed with suspicion, even believed to be in league with the devil. The community harbored an intense fear of the devil, a belief deeply ingrained in the cultural understanding of how the world operated. They believed the devil was a real entity with the explicit intent to influence and harm, often through individuals who had made a pact with him witches. I messed up that. With witches understood to possess strange and terrible powers. Central to their theology was the concept of predestination, where an individual's piousness and good deeds were seen as indicators of being chosen by God for salvation. This belief system, coupled with the constant threat of eternal damnation, fostered considerable anxiety, particularly among children who were routinely exposed to stories of hellfire and eternal punishment as a means of enforcing doctrinal and behavioral conformity. Everybody was good little automatons for their little, beautiful, utopian society. Everybody has a role, and everybody must perform that role in order to get into heaven after you die. You go outside of these prescribed roles, you're going to burn in hellfire for eternity. You'll be a good little automaton. Know your role in society.
That kind of reminds me of Moana.
Moana?
Yeah, in the first one,
Maui?
she's like, everyone has the role on this island.
Yes.
So maybe I can roll with mine.
Right. Everyone has a role. She's going to roll with her tide.
Roll Tide.
Alabama. We're not Alabama.
No, we're not Alabama.
But isn't that interesting? So if you go slightly out of your prescribed societal roles, so, as children, it's one thing, but then they are told if they do not behave, they'll go to hell when they die. So they go into these roles. So you go to be a farmer, and females go be seamstresses, and they cook dinners and
Raise children.
raise the children eventually. Everybody has a role. These Puritans and their roles. But if you went outside that role, women were not to smoke pipes. Women were not meant to wear pants.
Until about the 1920s, when women got a little bit of freedom.
A little bit of freedom.
They got the right to vote.
Thanks, Wyoming.
Wyoming?
Yeah. Pretty sure Wyoming was the first state to let women vote.
Wyoming doesn't seem that type.
Maybe not anymore. Well, I guess our neighbor Utah is a little bit different. With all the Mormons. Better keep going. We got 10 pages of notes.
This deeply ingrained Puritan worldview, which held that a malevolent devil actively sought to harm humanity through witches, meant that any inexplicable affliction or misfortune was readily attributed to supernatural causes. This pervasive ideological framework predisposed the community to interpret unusual events through the lens of spiritual warfare, establishing a crucial underlying condition that allowed those accusations to take root and spread rapidly and lethally.
The crisis that unfolded in Salem, Massachusetts, beginning in the spring of 1692, was indeed an extraordinary series of events, culminating in the tragic deaths of 25 innocent individuals. During this period, 18 people were hanged on Gallows Hill. One elderly man, Giles Corey, was pressed to death for refusing to enter a plea, and 7 others perished while imprisoned. In total, approximately 150 to 200 men, women, and children faced accusations or imprisonment over several months. This period has been rightly characterized as a defining example of intolerance and injustice in American history. You're looking something up. Maybe I'll keep going, unless you already got your thing. The initial characterization of the trials as intolerance and injustice is not merely a moral judgment, but points to fundamental systemic flaws within the colonial legal and social structures. The Puritan legal system, which largely operated under interpretations of Old Testament law, often lacked formal legal training for its judges and was inherently ill-equipped to manage a crisis of this magnitude fairly. The widespread societal belief in the existence of witchcraft, coupled with a judicial process that controversially allowed for spectral evidence testimony based on dreams and visions, meant that the very system designed to deliver justice was primed to produce unjust outcomes. This confluence of deeply held beliefs and procedural deficiencies highlights how a society's foundational convictions and legal frameworks can converge to create fertile ground for severe human rights abuses as witnessed in Salem.
All the talk about children supposed to be scared of all the witches because they work with the devil reminds me of Roald Dahl's book, The Witches.
Okay.
I started to read it in 6th grade. I never really finished it. But it talks about how the main character, I forget his name, but his parents die in a car accident, and I think it was when they were visiting his grandmother in Iceland.
Okay.
And a bunch of witches exist in Iceland, and his grandmother then takes him in because his parents died, and his parents, his grandmother always told him stories about witches and like how you can define, like tell who is a witch and who is not. And it was always women.
Okay.
And they would wear gloves and like all a bunch of stuff. I guess there's also a movie after it.
Is there?
Yeah.
Was that the new one?
Like,
That's Anne Hathaway. I didn't know that was a Roald Dahl story. Roald Dahl did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which became Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but they did do a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and the Jungle Book.
I did not know he wrote the Jungle Book.
Pretty sure he did. But I want to watch that movie, that movie's a remake of a different movie of the previous one. Interesting. Very good. Now I think I want to listen to the story. Because I'm going to check out the audiobook.
The Salem Witch?
Yep.
The Salem witch trials did not erupt spontaneously, but were the culmination of deep-seated fears, societal anxieties, and a series of compounding hardships that converged in early 1692. Puritan society was profoundly shaped by its strict religious doctrines, which dictated nearly every aspect of life. Non-conformity was not merely a social
faux
pas, it was perceived as actively working against God and aligning with the devil. The community lived under pervasive fear of the devil, believing him to be a tangible entity with the power and intent to influence and harm individuals. Witches, in this worldview, were not merely figures of folklore, but real people who had entered into a pact with Satan, thereby acquiring strange and terrible powers to inflict maleficium. Why does it have an SH?
I think there's a couple of different ways to pronounce it. Maleficium,
or evil deeds. This intense spiritual anxiety was particularly instilled in children, who were routinely subjected to stories of hellfire and eternal punishment, with fear, humiliation, and shame employed as common tactics to ensure their adherence to religious doctrines and societal rules.
Yep. My parents definitely talked about that. Like, they told us if we weren't good, we would go to hell, that kind of stuff. To a degree. We weren't like super duper church people, but when we went, it was very particular. It was very particular. Not peculiar. I was going to say peculiar. It wasn't peculiar, maybe, but it was very particular, very prim and proper, that kind of thing. Now, with the Lutheran church that we go to occasionally, there's still plenty of the older generation that will dress up real nice, ties, button-up shirts, stuff like that. I tend to wear a collared shirt, but I don't go whole tie, and I've definitely seen other guys that are around my age go in there with shorts, cargo shorts, flip-flops, no socks. This is not me. I'll wear shoes and socks to church, maybe shorts when it's super hot, but jeans, usually, and a collared shirt.
Just nice, formal, casual.
Yeah, sure. But there are people that are like strict, gotta wear the whole nine.
Yeah.
But that's just what they do. Usually retirees get into that.
I have been a little more lenient on when I would wear to church. Because I'm not doing the dresses anymore. Because, when I was younger, I would always wear a dress to church.
Worshipping the devil.
Are you gonna be a Puritan so I can't wear pants?
I'm not. I'm just saying that there's a chunk of society that would.
Well,
They're still out there. Amish people are like super strict on that kind of thing. More Puritan people, probably Baptist people. It's a thing, man. Can't knock them for it, but you can be like, I'm gonna sit at the other table.
I have my beliefs, you have yours.
It's fine.
Gonna stick to mine.
Yep, it's fine. We're all good. The emphasis on conformity within Puritan society, coupled with the intense fear of the devil and the pervasive belief in witchcraft, created an environment where any deviation from established norms could be readily weaponized. Those who did not fit in were easily singled out and accused. This dynamic suggests that the trials were not solely a manifestation of genuine belief in supernatural malevolence, but also served as a powerful mechanism for social control. It allowed the community to systematically expunge individuals deemed different, difficult to control, or otherwise undesirable. This meant that accusations often stemmed from pre-existing social tensions and prejudices, rather than being solely based on perceived supernatural acts, making the trials a tool for enforcing social order.
The political landscape of colonial Massachusetts in the late 17th century was fraught with instability. Significant tensions had long simmered between the rural Salem village, now Danvers, and the more prosperous Salem town. These divisions were exacerbated when Salem village sought to establish its own church and appointed Reverend Samuel Paris, a controversial minister, leading to deep factions within the community, with some villagers even refusing to pay his salary.
Yeah, he's not fun at parties.
I don't think much reverends would be.
They might be. Some might be.
Maybe modern time ones.
But personally, I don't know if it's maybe just my concept, my just ideas from maybe I'm tainted from different stories and movies, but younger reverends or pastors kind of creep me out. The older ones are like more fatherly or grandfatherly peering individuals. The younger ones, and I've met some that are younger than me at this point in my life, and I'm just like, I'm not going to take advice from you.
Not super older father.
No. It's weird. Maybe you'll get that way at some point. Further compounding this internal strife was a larger political crisis. In 1684, King Charles II revoked the Massachusetts Bay Colony's original charter, which had granted it remarkable autonomy. A new charter, issued by King William and Queen Mary in 1691, significantly increased the Crown's control through appointed officials, threatening Massachusetts' status as a Puritan colony and jeopardizing existing land ownership titles. This period of political uncertainty left the local government chaotic and instilled a fear of punishment from the crown among the colonists. The rule of Governor Andros, who permitted Quakers and Baptists to worship freely, was widely interpreted by many Puritans as a spiritual crisis and direct threat to their envisioned city on a hill.
The revocation of the charter created a profound sense of political impotence and uncertainty among the Puritan leadership, who were accustomed to wielding power and ensuring the safety of their communities. This external pressure, combined with the internal discord between Salem Village and Salem Town, and the continuous appointment of Reverend Paris, cultivated a highly volatile environment. The inability of the leaders to effectively control external threats or manage internal dissent may have led them to seek an internal scapegoat. By projecting their anxieties onto a perceived spiritual enemy, the devil and his witches, they could attempt to reassert control and provide a comprehensible explanation for their mounting misfortunes. The malfunctioning political and judicial system was not merely inefficient, it actively contributed to the panic by failing to provide stability, due process, or a credible framework for resolving disputes, thus fueling the escalating crisis.
Beyond internal conflicts, the community faced several external pressures that heightened collective anxiety. An ongoing conflict with French colonists and their indigenous allies, known as King William's War, 1689 to 1697, raged to the north of Massachusetts. This war generated widespread unease, a sense of losing control, increased casualties, rising taxes, inflation, and a significant influx of refugees into Salem and surrounding areas. Adding to the misery was a recent smallpox epidemic and extreme weather conditions, including the driest summers and coldest winters on record.
These external hardships, war, disease, and severe weather were not merely background elements, but acted as profound stressors that amplified fear, paranoia, and tension within the community. In a society that deeply believed in divine providence and the devil's active involvement in human affairs, these misfortunes were readily interpreted as signs of God's displeasure or direct manifestations for the devil's work among them. This provided a convenient supernatural explanation for tangible suffering, making the terrifying idea of witches operating within their midst a plausible and immediate reality for the populace. The Puritans believed that physical realities often had spiritual causes, thus transforming environmental and geopolitical crises into evidence of a spiritual war.
Everything was the witch's fault. Everything. The weather, the taxes, the war up north. Blame the witches. It wasn't our fault. We're not doing it. It's the witches. Women. They caused us. And the society.
The women who know things.
They want to ride the horses. Blame them.
They want to wear pants.
How?
They want to show their ankles.
No. They don't want to shave their armpits. Blame the witches.
They want to have short hair.
No. Especially the redheads. They are the worst.
Irish.
The crisis ignited in January 1692 within the household of Reverend Samuel Parris in Salem Village. His 9-year-old daughter, Betty Parris, and his 11-year-old niece, Abigail Williams, began exhibiting bizarre and alarming behaviors, including incessant seizures, contortions, screaming, and writhing. The local village doctor, William Griggs, an uneducated practitioner, could find no physical explanation for their inexplicable symptoms and concluded that witchcraft was the only possible cause. The girls also confessed to dabbling in fortune-telling and listening to Taduba, an enslaved woman in the Parris household, recount stories of Caribbean magic. Oh, no. How dare they? See, that's why they're sick. You talk to a Caribbean magic practitioner?
You can't talk to any magic practitioner.
No, none of them. Nope. And they're dabbling in fortune-telling?
Burn.
Well, that's why they're sick. Because they've been dabbling in it. You can't be doing that.
The diagnosis of witchcraft by the village doctor was a pivotal moment.
Diagnosis.
How do you know? Did you do an autopsy?
He's not even educated. He's an uneducated practitioner.
He's just like...
He's a dude.
Witchcraft. That's what we're going with? Witchcraft. In a pre-scientific era where medical understanding was limited, The inability to provide a physical reason for the girls' bizarre behaviors naturally led to a spiritual explanation. This medical validation from an authority figure, however uneducated, served to legitimize the idea of spiritual affliction and directly propelled the community into a witch hunt. This illustrates how a lack of scientific understanding can pave the way for supernatural interpretations to become accepted reality, particularly when endorsed by figures in positions of perceived authority.
Your principal was like, listen, there's some occult activity in the middle school. You're gonna have to go on a witch hunt.
I think the only male principal in my school district is in the high school.
So they've let the woman wear pants in the middle school.
They've let 3 women. Well, 4.
4 women.
Because there's, at the high school, who used to be my
assistant principal.
She moved up to the high school. So
she's assistant there.
Yeah. 1 woman in power. Then my principal was a woman in power. Then my elementary principal and assistant principal, both women.
Sounds like what you're saying is there's occult activity in the middle school because the women are wearing pants. Is that what you're saying?
I guess so. It's predominantly women in control.
See, maybe that's the point I'm getting to. Didn't mean to get there, but now that you say all that, if those women came forward and were like, hey, look, listen, there's some occult activity going on and we need to find out what's happening. Since they are women in power and they have an influence, there's going to be more people that follow them. They could lead a witch hunt.
Yeah.
Because they're in power. That's the whole point. They're authority figures. And they're trusted authority figures.
People are willing to listen to them.
Right. Not that they're accusing anybody necessarily, but they could lead people. They do lead people, but not necessarily in malevolent ways. But they have the power. With great power comes great responsibility.
Now we're bringing Spider-Man?
Yes. Belief in the existence of witches was widespread throughout colonial New England, forming a fundamental part of the cultural understanding of the world. The initial accusations disproportionately target individuals who were already marginalized, socially vulnerable, or defy Puritan societal norms. Tituba, an indigenous slave woman from Barbados, was one of the first accused, along with Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne. Tituba was particularly vulnerable, described as an, quote, easy target for scapegoating, unquote, quote, due to her race, sex, and social status. Sexes and gender. Sarah Good was a poor, slovenly beggar who smoked a pipe, while Sarah Osborne was also a socially disenfranchised older woman. These individuals notably did not conform to the Puritan perception of ideal womanhood, and thus...
I feel like I've heard the name Sarah Good.
Yep, probably.
I don't know where. Probably from a book I read.
What about witches?
Yeah.
Yep.
Probably from that one in, 4th grade.
Could be. Because I feel like that name comes up often.
A lot of Sarah.
Sarah Osborne, Sarah Good. Didn't know anything about Tituba until we started getting into this.
And Sarah, Anderson? No, not Anderson. Sanderson.
Sarah Sanderson of Hocus Pocus fame. There you go.
Is it crucially or the initial?
The initial.
The initial accusations, which disproportionately targeted individuals who were already marginalized, socially vulnerable, or defied Puritan norms, suggest that the trials served as an outlet for pre-existing societal anxieties and prejudices. This allowed the community to project its fears onto those already considered outsiders or different. The act of accusing reinforced societal norms by punishing non-conformity, making these individuals convenient and easy targets for the initial wave of hysteria.
Mm-hmm. Crucially, the afflicted girls who made these accusations gained unprecedented authority and recognition. In a highly codified patriarchal society that typically provided girls and young women with limited speaking roles, their afflictions and subsequent accusations granted them a powerful platform. The most influential people in town began to listen to this least powerful, most silenced minority group. The more accusations they made, the more famous and powerful they became, creating a self-reinforcing cycle. The trials also relied heavily on spectral evidence. Testimony about dreams and visions where the accused spirit was seen harming the accuser. This controversial form of evidence became a primary driver of the trials. So you just wake up one day and be like, yeah, I totally had a dream about her choking me or chasing me through the forest or something. Feed me poison soup. She's definitely a witch. Bro, that was a dream.
I don't think.
Spectral evidence.
No, I think you just don't like her.
Right. I think you just made up the whole thing. Spectral evidence was very important for some time during the whole witch trials.
I didn't even think you remembered. How do you even remember a dream like that?
Right.
Lucid dreams aren't really that common.
Well, they were more common then. Now we look at screens until we black out, and then we wake up and look at screens some more. We hardly use our own imaginations.
Sadly.
We're going to need a new plague against the clankers.
The allowance of spectral evidence, combined with the newfound power and attention granted to the accusers, established a perverse incentive structure within the community. In a patriarchal society where young women typically lacked a public voice, the act of accusing provided them with unprecedented authority and recognition. This sudden shift in power dynamics, where influential community members actively listened to and validated the claims of previously marginalized individuals, was a critical, albeit unintended, driver of the hysteria. This dynamic, where accusing others would could lead to social elevation and social elevation, and even protect oneself from persecution, fueled a snowballing effect of accusations. The trials thus became a self-perpetuating system where fear and social gain intertwined, making it incredibly difficult to halt the spread of hysteria. This also highlights how public shaming, a common Puritan punishment, was unintentionally leveraged by the accusers, transforming their testimonies into instruments of power.
The Salem witch trials involved a complex web of individuals, from the initial accusers whose strange afflictions set the crisis in motion, to the diverse range of people who found themselves caught in the widening net of accusations and the authorities who presided over the proceedings.
As the hysteria spread, Betty Paris and Abigail Williams' friends, including Ann Putnam Jr., Elizabeth Booth, Elizabeth Hubbard, Mary Warren, and Mercy Lewis, also began exhibiting similar symptoms and joined the ranks of the accusers. These young women collectively became the main accusers throughout the trials, playing a direct role in the instigation of 19 executions.
In a highly codified patriarchal society that typically silenced young girls and afforded them limited public roles, their afflictions and subsequent accusations granted them an unprecedented platform and influence. This sudden and dramatic shift in power dynamics, where the most influential people in the town are listening to the least powerful, most silenced minority group, was a critical, albeit unintended, driver of the escalating hysteria. It effectively transformed their fits into a powerful tool for social control and personal gain, as their fame and authority grew with each new accusation.
Tituba confessed to her own involvement with the devil and, crucially, implicated Sarah Good, Sarah Osborne, and others, thereby significantly widening the scope of the crisis. Both Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne denied their guilt. These initial targets shared a common thread. They did not conform to the Puritan perception of ideal womanhood.
Smoking pipes and stuff.
Wearing pants.
As the hysteria gained momentum, the accusations broadened beyond the initial marginalized figures to include more established members of the community. Bridget Bishop, a witty, independent, and quarrelsome woman who had been accused and acquitted of witchcraft 12 years prior, became the first person convicted and hanged in June 1692. Her nonconformity to Puritan ideals, including being married 3 times and openly fighting with her husband, made her a vulnerable target. Despite multiple accusers, no witchcraft was proven by the required 2 witnesses. Instead, the court relied solely on spectral evidence. I dreamed she did it, so she did it. Hang her.
Burn the witch. The trials then ensnared respectful figures like Rebecca Nurse, an elderly and highly regarded church member. Despite dozens petitioning on her behalf, she was initially found not guilty by the jury, only for the judges to demand reconsideration, leading to a guilty verdict and her subsequent hanging. Her sister, Mary Etsy, also accused, submitted 2 eloquent petitions to the court, advocating for fair trials and exposing the flaws in the proceedings, but her pleas did not prevent her execution. The elderly Giles Corey faced multiple accusations and refusing to enter a plea, was pressed to death by stones, the only such insane instance in Massachusetts history. His wife, Martha Corey, was also accused and hanged. As the afflicted girls grew in confidence, their accusations became increasingly ambitious, targeting prosperous and established members of the community.
This is where things get crazy. If they would have just stuck with the few that they did, then it would have been fine. But now things are getting a little crazy where they're starting to accuse some of the more influential people. They accuse an old lady in church of being a witch. Bro.
She goes to the church.
Spectral evidence. They dreamed it. The progression of accusations from marginalized individuals to respected community members and even prominent figures demonstrates a profound and self-destructive aspect of the unchecked power granted to the accusers and the court. The judges even said, "Jury, she's definitely guilty. You want to rethink this?"
No.
And how could the jury be like, yeah, okay, sure, well, yep, she's guilty.
Picking sides a little.
Yeah, judges.
Who are supposed to be fair and not pick sides at all.
Right. Supposed to be a jury of your peers. And the peers said, yeah, she's not guilty, she's fine. And the judges were like,
Are you sure about that?
When the hysteria began to consume those who were socially prominent and influential, it became chillingly clear that no one was safe, regardless of their status. This expansion beyond easy targets ultimately undermined the legitimacy of the trials, and forced a critical reevaluation of the legal procedures as the very fabric of the community was threatened by its own judicial process.
The legal proceedings were overseen by magistrates and judges, including Jonathan Corwin and John Hathorne, who conducted the initial examinations. Their approach was often more akin to prosecuting attorneys than impartial investigators, readily accepting the dreams and fancies of the young accusers as positive evidence. Samuel Sewall was one of 9 judges appointed by Governor Sir William Phips to the Special Court of Oyer and Terminer, established to hear and determine witchcraft accusations. Sewall later expressed profound remorse for his role, publicly confessing his guilt and repentance in January 1697.
5 years later. The clergy also played a significant role. Reverend Samuel Parris was the minister in whose household the initial afflictions occurred, and he was a central figure in the early stages of the crisis. While Reverend Cotton Mather publicly defended the trials, his stance later became uneasy, and he waffled between support and attempts to rein in excesses. A crucial turning point came with the intervention of his father, Increase Mather, the president of Harvard College. Yes, his father's first name is Increase.
1,600 names. So many Johns, Marys, Elizabeths, and Sarahs.
The one guy's name is Cotton Mather, and then his dad's name is Increase. Samuel is a pretty common, simple name. There's Corwin. Where was that? He became a prominent critic, strongly advocating that the standards of evidence for witchcraft must be as rigorous as for any other crime. He famously declared that, quote, it would better that 10 suspected witches may escape than one innocent person be condemned. Increase Mather explicitly insisted on the termination of the Special Court of Oyer and Terminer due to the unacceptable risk of shedding innocent blood.
The conduct of magistrates like Corwin and Hathorne, who acted as prosecutors rather than impartial investigators, revealed a profound breakdown of judicial integrity. This, coupled with the initial support from some clergy and the controversial reliance on spectral evidence, meant that the very institutions meant to uphold justice and moral order became deeply complicit in the injustices. The eventual critics from influential clergy like Increase Mather were not just intellectual arguments. They represented a crucial reassertion of moral authority that directly challenged the legitimacy of the court's proceedings. This intellectual and moral challenge signaled a critical turning point, providing the necessary framework for official intervention.
The intense period of the Salem witch trials, marked by fear and accusations, eventually began to wane as several critical factors converged, leading to their cessation. By September 1692, the pervasive hysteria had begun to abate, and public opinion gradually turned against the trials. Significant catalyst for this shift was the expansion of accusations beyond the socially marginalized to include respected, prosperous, and influential members of the community. When the trials began to ensnare individuals like Rebecca Nurse, who was widely respected, and even the governor's own wife, skepticism grew. The calm defiance and protests of innocence by many of those executed, coupled with the increasingly questionable procedures of the court, further contributed to the waning public support. The realization that anyone could be accused, regardless of their social standing, exposed the inherent dangers and arbitrariness of the proceedings, shaking the community's trust in the process. This sentiment was further validated years later when, in 1706, Anne Putnam, one of the most prominent accusers, publicly confessed to fabricating her testimony.
The shift in public sentiment was not merely a spontaneous change of heart, but a direct consequence of the trial's escalation. When the accusations began to target respectable, pious women, and even the governor's wife, the community's instinct for self-preservation was activated. The realization that anyone could be accused, regardless of status, exposed the inherent dangers and
Arbitrariness.
arbitrariness of the proceedings. This social backlash created the necessary political will for intervention, demonstrating that even in a highly fearful and conformist society, there are limits to how far injustice can be pushed before it triggers widespread dissent.
Yep. Crucial to the trial's end were the intellectual and moral critiques voiced by influential figures. Respected ministers, including Cotton Mather, had previously warned about the dubious value of spectral evidence, though these concerns were largely unheeded during the height of the hysteria. More forcefully, Increase Mather, the highly respected president of Harvard College, and Cotton Mather's father, joined the chorus of critics. He vehemently urged that the evidentiary standards for witchcraft must be as rigorous as for any other crime, famously stating, "It would be better that 10 suspected witches may escape than one innocent person be condemned." His strong stance included insisting on the termination of the special court of oyer and terminer, citing the grave risk of shedding innocent blood. I mean, we've said that twice, but there.
Further intellectual challenges came from figures like Robert Califf, a Salem merchant with ties to the persecuted. Califf directly attacked Cotton Mather's published account of the trials, Wonders of the Invisible World, in his own work. More Wonders of the Invisible World. More Wonders of the Invisible World. Califf claimed the entire episode was a fraud, specifically alleging that Reverend Samuel Parris had beaten Tituba to coerce a false confession.
In 2 different books there. And so this guy is saying that the Reverend forced a confession out of Tituba. Messed up. I mean, maybe, but maybe not. While public sentiment shifted, the intellectual and moral critiques from prominent figures like Increase Mather were crucial in providing a legitimate framework for ending the trials. Their arguments against the validity of spectral evidence provided the legal and theological justification needed for the authorities to intervene. This highlights how, even amidst widespread irrationality, the reasoned voices of respected leaders can eventually cut through hysteria and guide society back towards principles of justice and fairness. Their intervention provided the critical mass needed for official action.
The decisive governmental intervention was spearheaded by Governor Sir William Phips, the newly appointed royal governor of the province of Massachusetts Bay. Upon his arrival in May 1692, Phips found the colonial judicial system overwhelmed by the sheer volume of witchcraft accusations and the jails overflowing with suspects. He promptly established the Special Court of Oyer and Terminer to handle the alarming number of cases.
You just don't have just common criminals. Everybody's a witch.
I drink they did that. I drink they did this, and they did that. They're witches now.
Everybody's witches. They're all in jail. No drunken, disorderly people. They're just witches in jail.
Yeah. No pickpocketers or committers of adultery.
Thefts. Nothing. Just witches in jail. Let the thieves go. However, by October 1692, amidst growing public skepticism and the influential critiques from clergy, Governor Phips took decisive action. He officially dissolved the Court of Oyer and Terminer. A significant factor influencing Phips' decision was likely the accusation of his own wife as a witch in the fall of 1692, though she was never arrested. His personal stake likely provided a powerful and immediate incentive for him to act.
At the end of 1692, a new judicial body, the Supreme Court of
Judicature,
was created to hear the remaining cases in early 1693. In a further act of intervention in January 1693, on the eve of another scheduled hanging day for 8 more convicted witches, Phipps reprieved all remaining prisoners, much to the displeasure of Chief Justice William Sogden. By May 1693, Governor Phipps had pardoned and released all individuals who remained imprisoned on witchcraft charges.
So Governor Phipps is like, what? They can't all be witches? I can only imagine Chief Justice William Stoughton was blowing out his mustaches. Well, there's all this spectral evidence for all these people to be in jail because they're witches. They invaded the children's dreams, choking them in their sleep. While public sentiment and intellectual critiques laid the groundwork, Governor Phipps' intervention was a direct governmental action that ended the trials. His personal stake, with his wife being accused, likely provided a powerful, immediate impetus to act. Combined with his ultimate political authority as royal governor, he was uniquely positioned to dismantle the flawed judicial system and implement reforms. This demonstrates that systemic change often requires not just external pressure, but also decisive action from those in positions of power, sometimes spurred by personal experience.
The most significant legal reform following the trials was the disallowance of spectral evidence by the new Superior Court of Judicature. This crucial change made convictions for witchcraft almost impossible, leading to the acquittal of most remaining accused witches.
So you're telling me you dreamed that this woman set your uncle's wagon on fire? Yeah, that's what happened. That's exactly what happened, mister. That's what I saw in my dreams. Does she have access to set a wagon on fire? Well, I don't know, mister. Now, is she really a witch? She can't do the fire. She can't set the wagon on fire. Come on. In the years that followed, concerted efforts were made to rectify the profound injustices. In January 1697, 5 years later, the Massachusetts General Court declared a day of fasting to acknowledge the tragedy of the Salem witch trials. The court subsequently deemed the trials unlawful, and notably leading Justice Samuel Sewall publicly confessed his guilt, remorse, and repentance for his role in the proceedings. Further legislative action was taken in 1711 when Massachusetts passed legislation to formally exonerate those who had been executed and provide financial restitution to their families.
The disallowance of spectral evidence was the most significant legal reform, directly addressing the procedural flaw that allowed the hysteria to flourish. The subsequent apologies and legislative actions were attempted to rectify the profound injustices, demonstrating a societal recognition of grave error. This post-trial reckoning, particularly the focus on due process and in evidentiary standards, laid foundational lessons for the American legal system. It influenced the development of concepts like the presumption of innocence and the hearsay rule. Even if the direct causal link is debated by scholars, the trials became a cautionary tale that shaped future legal thinking.
Interesting, huh? This was still 70 plus years before the United States became a thing, before the United States was founded. The Salem witch trials of 1692 represented a complex and harrowing chapter in American history, born from a unique confluence of factors. No single cause fully explains the phenomenon. Rather, it was the tragic interplay of fervent religious beliefs that fostered a deep fear of the devil and non-conformity. Profound socio-political instability stemming from governmental changes and internal village disputes, severe external pressures from war, disease, and harsh weather, and deeply unsettling psychological and social dynamics that empowered young accusers through the acceptance of dubious evidence. This combination created a volatile environment where suspicion escalated into mass hysteria, leading to the persecution and deaths of innocent individuals.
The enduring legacy of the Salem witch trials is not merely a historical curiosity, but a foundational cautionary tale for American jurisprudence, the science or philosophy of law, and civil liberties. The profound injustices committed, particularly the absence of basic rights such as the presumption of innocence and the right to legal counsel, and the reliance on unreliable spectral evidence, served as a stark negative example that implicitly strengthened arguments for a Bill of Rights nearly a century later. This demonstrates how a dark chapter in history can paradoxically become a catalyst for the development of robust legal protections, underscoring the vital importance of safeguarding individual freedoms against governmental overreach and popular hysteria.
The trials profoundly influenced American legal thought, highlighting the critical need for due process, fair and unbiased proceedings, and strict standards of evidence. The rejection of spectral evidence and the subsequent development of principles like the presumption of innocence and the hearsay rule are direct descendants of the lessons learned from Salem's legal failings. Beyond the legal realm, the Salem witch trials serve as a powerful historical allegory for the dangers of mass hysteria, unchecked accusations, scapegoating, and the perils of a society consumed by irrational fears. Its cultural resonance continues to this day, notably dramatized by Arthur Miller in The Crucible, 1953, which used the events as an allegory for the anti-communist witch hunts of the McCarthy era. The Salem witch trials remain a potent reminder of the fragility of justice when fear overrides reasoned judgment and legal safeguards are abandoned. And this makes me think of the Satanic Panic. 60s, 70s, 80s? More 80s, 70s, 80s? Something like that. But we should definitely get into the Satanic Panic at some point. Whether we save it for a year from now or we get bored during the winter and we want some more dark stories. Because it was essentially the same kind of thing. Like, you can kind of see it in the Stranger Things show, where, well, they didn't really go against the Dungeons and Dragons game, but that game was definitely a target for people that were afraid of the Satanic Panic and Satanists and devil worshippers. People weren't afraid to say they were devil worshippers, but the people that were not devil worshippers were like, "Oh, we gotta be scared because they told us they're devil worshippers. They're playing the Dungeons and Dragons. We're scared of them. They're out there in the woods sacrificing goats." Satanic Panic?
Yeah.
Eventually. We got a long list. I guess we could add it to the list, but all this stuff is we have a list that's gonna take us out through October. And since we did our previous episode, What is Witchcraft Part 2, it shifted some stuff. So we'll talk about Aleister Crowley in November at this point. But next, a little bit of a cryptid, definitely a creepier story. And this episode is going to it'll come out a week from now. Hopefully the next episode it'll be a little bit cooler out. But even if it's not cooler out, the next story, you're out alone and something comes creeping up to your window. Don't invite them in. But this is crazy. The Salem witch trials was bananas. And I think we only skimmed the surface. It lasted an entire year, January 1692 through the whole year, and people were being accused through January 1693.
So many innocent souls.
Yep. It was almost like a control of population. Not just control of conformity, but a control of population. There were so many people to feed.
And not enough food rations.
Maybe? And they were just like, let's get rid of you. Does anybody really like Sarah Good? You should probably.
Let's just get rid of her.
Yeah, we don't need her. Tatuba? That's a weird name. We don't need her. No, crazy.
Yes, too many Sarahs. Just get rid of
We have too many Sarahs already.
Just get rid of a few.
I wonder if there was some influence, like people would go up to the girls that were doing the accusing and be like, we'll give you an extra chicken leg, like, German Val Margaret over there? Think Margaret's a witch? No? A few rations on your table? Extra rice? What do you think?
You don't have to make the gas for a day, I'll do it. You just say, Margaret, strangle your husband in your sleep or something.
Something. I wonder if there was some influence like that. Probably was.
Most likely.
It's a mess. But why did the Salem witch trials occur? We answer that. Question brought.
Question answered.
A production of Wayward Things Network.